Number 10. Japan. Japan was the place that is known for samurais, and Japan was a main military compel in World War II. Strangely, its tranquility settlement toward the end of World War II denies it from having a hostile armed force. In light of its developing question with the continually extending China, Japan began military extension, first time in 40 years, putting new base on external islands. It expanded its military spending, first time in 11 years, to $49.1 billion, the world's sixth most astounding. It has more than 247,000 dynamic workforce and right around 60,000 available for later. With 1,595 flying machine, it is the fifth biggest flying corps. The armed forces likewise outfitted with 131 warships. Plus, through its light resistance activities, it keeps up a strong military nearness in Asia. Number 9. South Korea. South Korea imparts its fringe to North Korea, which has to a great degree effective armed force available and henceforth is a consistent risk to South Korea. Be that as it may, its hostile neighbor is not its lone issue. To meet the expanding deadly implement of China and Japan, South Korea has been expanding its safeguard use, which is currently $34 billion. It keeps up a substantial armed force of more than 640,000 dynamic faculty and 2,900,000 extra staff in the SAVE. Close by the sixth biggest flying corps with 1,393 flying machine, and also a little 166 boats. The nation has around 15,000 land weapons, including rocket frameworks, and additionally 2,346 tanks. It routinely takes an interest in military preparing with the U.S. Number 8. Turkey. It was maybe the battle of alternate nations imparting outskirts to the districts where the Islamic State has a solid nearness, the battle in Syria or the likelihood of conflicts with the Kurdish Separatist Association, PKK, which made Turkey understand that it needs to set itself up to face peril head-on. If and when it methodologies, and choose to expand its interest in protection in 2015 by 10%. Its guard spending plan is at $18.18 billion. Its armed force estimate, including consistent troops and holds, is quite recently over 660,000. Turkey's aviation-based armed forces has 1,000 flying machine. The military likewise claims to 16,000 land weapons. It has solid discretionary ties with the U.S., and shares in activities around the globe. Number 7. Germany. Germany is one of the most grounded financial strengths on the planet, yet regardless of spending around $45 million consistently, the armed forces condition appears to have crumbled in the previous couple of years. This is maybe in light of the fact that the era conceived and experiencing startup in the 1950s were against war and its abominations, and the dread of being beaten by nations with most grounded armed forces, still debilitates the general population to join the armed force. In 2011, required military administration was dispensed with to keep the nation from being a mobilized nation. It has just 183,000 dynamic bleeding-edge workforce and 145,000 reservists, close by 710 airship altogether, and assure combat hardware of about 5,000 of different sorts. Number 6. France. France is another nation to take after Germany's lead on the grounds. In 2013, it took the choice to successfully solidify its military spending, and cut down on the guard employments by 10%, to spare cash for mechanically propelled hardware.
Its present military spending remains at $43 billion a year, which is 1.9% of the nation's GDP, much underneath the spending focus as set by NATO. More than 220,000 consistent constraint consolidates with reservists to shape a compel of around 500,000. It has a little more than 1,000 flying machine, alongside 9,000 ground vehicles. Regardless of the possibility that these don't make France an impressive armed force, its position in the EU and UN, an aggregate 290 atomic weapons, and huge arrangements reinforce the nation. Number 5.
The United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, another individual from the EU, likewise has an arrangement of decreasing the extent of the military by 20% somewhere around 2010 and 2018, and apply littler slices to the Royal Navy and RAF. The safeguard spending plan of the UK right now remains at $54 billion. It has a general constraint of just around 205,000, alongside a little aviation-based armed forces of 908 airship, and a significantly littler naval force of 66 boats. Nonetheless, the armed force of the UK is still an effective one, with its prevalent preparing, gear and its 160 atomic weapons being the primary qualities. The Royal Navy is wanting to put to administration HMS Queen Elizabeth, in 2020. It is a plane-carrying warship, wanted to convey 40 F-35B Joint Strike Contenders around the globe.
Number 4.
India. India has put its massive population to use, and built an army of a sizable 3.5 million, including 1.325 million active military. The huge size of the Indian military is one of the reasons why it has always remained among the countries with best armies in the world. The man force of the army is complemented by almost 16,000 land vehicles, which include 3,500 tanks, as well as 1,785 aircraft, alongside nuclear weapons. Its ballistic missiles can hit all of Pakistan or most of China. Its current defense budget stands at $46 billion, but it is expected to rise, in a drive to modernize the military power and become the fourth highest spender by 2020. It is the world's largest military goods importer.
Number 3. China. China's guard spending plan formally remains at $126 billion, and, in a determined drive to put greatly in safeguard, there is probably going to be an expansion of spending plan by 12.2%. It has a considerable size of armed force, with 2.285 million dynamic bleeding-edge staff and a further 2.3 million reservists, making it the world's biggest land compel, alongside almost 25,000 land vehicles. It has another 2,800 airship on its aviation-based armed forces. China is in control of around 300 atomic weapons, close by 180 unique techniques for their organization. China has of late procured delicate data about the new F-35, and is noted for effectively taking touchy military innovation. China is properly among the main three military. Number 2.
Russia. Russia's resistance spending remains at $76.6 billion, and is relied upon to grow 44% more in the following 3 years. Truth be told, the military spending of Kremlin has expanded by about a third since 2008, particularly since Vladimir Putin grabbed hold of Russia in 2000. The Russian armed force has demonstrated significant development since the crumble of the Soviet Union 2 decades prior. It has 766,000 dynamic cutting-edge faculty and very nearly 2.5 million on the save drive, however the troopers get fair preparing. The man compel is upheld by 15,500 tanks, making Russia the biggest tank drive on the planet. However, it is maturing, similar to the next hardware. The nation is the world's pioneer, with right around 8,500 dynamic atomic warheads.
Number 1.
The United States. The United States spends an incredible $612.5 billion on the military, more than the other 9 nations' financial plans consolidated. It keeps up a surprisingly expansive armed force made out of more than 1.4 million fighters, and a further 800,000 reservists. To supplement the dynamic ground constraint involving very much prepared men and ladies in garbs, its greatest favorable position is that it is the world pioneer in airship creation, with an armada of 19 plane-carrying warships, while the bearers worked by the world together aggregate up to 12. The U.S. actualizes frontline innovation like the Naval Force's new rail firearm, and the nation likewise has 7,500 atomic warheads available to it. No big surprise, it is number 1 military compel since World War II.